We'll start. Right, welcome to our Foundational Light Coffee Club. So, as always, it's just a bit of a discussion rather than it's not a webinar or anything like that. So please feel free to get your cameras on, get your mics off and interact with us as much as possible. I'm delighted that Dips is going to lead it because he's the man when it comes to all things coaching and reflecting and all that. So, Dips, I'll pass over to you.
Cheers, young man. Thanks everybody for coming. I know obviously people might be back at work and stuff, whatever, but thanks for taking time out. Really. Starting with reflections, I didn't know where to start. To be fair, and I thought about maybe it's like just looking at the why. Why do we reflect, and what was the purpose of it all, and stuff like that. So I put some slides together last week. I've already seen the slides at all or not, or so really it was just what I thought coming out of my head, why we're doing it, what have we done, how have we done it. So and obviously for the reflection bit, I thought, what journey has other people been on? So if you want to have a look at the first slide, Jack, and then we can like pass it around and see what people think. So looking back over my shoulder, that's a 1980 song. So somebody's gonna remember that song. Some of us will not. And I think if you're the ones who don't, you'll be fine with that. So when I was thinking about this reflection and about the lockdown, the next slide really brought stuff to life for me. It was probably around these four things here. And with the pivotal bit in the middle, I mean, me personally, I think what I did find from all the lockdown over the last year was having a work-life balance, and how maybe over the years that hasn't been the case in one way or another. And that's probably down to me personally, to be fair. It's not always been about work, I think, because work's always there. It's about how much you want to work. So, yeah, and around that was probably around your family, your friends, yourself. I think it's probably affected them three things and your work. So I don't know if anybody wants to maybe have a bit input with that, how it might have affected your work or your family or your friends and yourself. Hopefully you'll all jump in with some experience and some reflection around that. Anybody want to have a go?
I'll come in, Dips, if you want.
Thanks, Claire.
And just I've got a bit of obviously my role, just for those on the call. Obviously I went into a very new role as a coach developer. So my role was full-time, and I'm there to support coaches who technically weren't coaching. So in terms of the balance of work and what it is, and another to that, it was a remote work. So how I had to connect with coaches, how I had to connect with people and do the job. So probably a bit similar to coaches working with players, connecting online, which was something that you had to self-taught, to be honest, because who actually taught you how to remote deliver, to be honest, in our bits of work. So probably touching a bit on that, to be honest, is like how we all taught ourselves a skill set that we never knew that we would actually need, and probably will probably continue in some part of our delivery moving forward. But yeah, that's probably something to bring to the group.
How did you feel with that, Claire? Were you straight into it? Because I know you're quite a technology type of person, aren't you? So did that faze you at all, or?
I think I'd never used Zoom. I never done Teams. I've maybe Skyped. I maybe did a WebEx for more conversational points, but never in terms of delivery workshops. Never in terms of. But then initially, when you work with people and it's a very relationship built role, you go have a cup of coffee, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So how can you build a relationship over a screen with a cup of coffee? Which similarly, I tried to be honest. In some of our meetings, I've never met people face to face, so it'll be interesting on some of the relationships that were built. It had to be like that. It had to be over a screen.
And that got me thinking as well about just the generation of people. So probably it's more the mature people like me and Colks. how we reacted to that, because we hadn't been brought up with screen to screen stuff, or Snapchats and stuff like that. So for me to go on something like here, I found it really difficult to just be having my face on here, if you know what I mean. If you'd noticed myself, I'd probably hid behind stuff. I hid behind like emoji or whatever you call it. But I think a lot of the young generation found it quite maybe an easy thing to maybe to do. I don't know. I don't know how that the other people on the call, the younger ones, did you find the same problems of what maybe me and Cogs had, or was it an easier transition coming onto Zoom and doing things online?
I think for me it was obviously there wasn't another option in terms of how to do it. So I suppose I found it a bit of an exciting challenge to start with. Thinking like, right, these kids haven't got any opportunity to play football. So what can we give them? Like they can't leave the house. So what can we do? How can we get creative to still give them that connection with the coaches and that little bit of normality, if you like. So I found it quite exciting. In terms of trying to help the players in that way. I think from a personal note, probably really, really beneficial for me. I probably didn't realise how much, like for my own like happiness, how much I love being out on a pitch with a group of players.
Yeah.
Like I know it's my passion and it's my job, but not being able to do it probably was like, right, well, what do I actually do now? Like you felt a bit lost, didn't you? Like I can't go and coach, so what do? I haven't got a clue. So now that's just became like, right, I'll get on Zoom like 6-7 times a week, and it almost felt it feels like normal life almost, but in a new form.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and maybe I'd probably stuck with the other ones as well, to be fair. So the work stuff, I think there's been a massive shift in that in terms of how it looks now, how it looked in the past, and probably how it's going to look further on. I think we're going to touch on that later on about how work might change. I think if you look at Stevie Dixon's on here, we've just been talking there how his way of maybe his working has changed. He's probably gone from, I would imagine, working in an office and around people to being very self-isolated now in a room which he's been locked in for maybe 8-9 hours a day, and how that maybe has affected him. Would you like to share that, Steve, at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly as you said. I mean, my job's office-based, like 8 till 4, 5 days a week. And it's actually a year this week since we came home.
Yeah.
And I've been sat in this room that I'm in now since then, basically working from home. You're going back to saying about what you actually did and like your ability to use technology, etc. My job is working with other people online and stuff a lot anyway.
Yeah.
So the only difference is I'm not actually, you don't get the social interaction with people. You're literally on a call for a meeting.
Yeah.
As soon as the meeting's over, that's it. You don't then go with your co-workers to grab a cuppa or whatever. So it is different. I mean, we've already been told that once we do go back, that it will be split. We'll be half a week in the office and a half a week at home. So, jobs are changing.
Yeah. And what effect do you think that's had on yourself, Steve? So from a personal point of view, from a self point of view, has it affected you in a positive way in some aspects? Or has it just...
I think it's a mix. There has been weeks when I've just been like, I really need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I've even got in touch with my boss and said, look, I'm just switching off for an hour and I won't walk.
Yeah.
You just need to get out. So I was finding that if I didn't push myself, I could be like 3 or 4 days in the house and never leave the house.
Yeah.
Which is frightening when you got to force yourself to get out and get some fresh air, or even just walking around the village. It's like you see people on the other side of the street, you might stop for a 2-minute chat or something.
Yeah.
It just felt weird. seen people and talked to people.
Yeah, so, and I've found that myself where I've gone out for walks, and I would think I'm quite a sociable person in terms of, I'm quite chatty with people, but I'm probably talking to a lot more people who I don't know than I probably did know, if you know what I mean. You're walking past people and you're saying hello to this person and that person, and I think you're getting, from what I've seen, you're getting receptive from other people as well. People who probably might have walked past you in the past are probably saying hello to you and how you doing and stuff like that. So for me, it's been a positive in that respect. I think people's been a little bit more, we're in this together. Let's be a little bit more friendly. That's the way I've took it on a lot of things. Even kids coming past on the bikes. I've been walking and then they've come. They said hello, where they probably wouldn't have done that a year before. I think everybody realises what position we're probably in. But it's interesting how it's maybe affected people individually. And then obviously family-wise, again, as it affected you in a negative way, but I was thinking positively how it's probably affected you. Is there anything that the lockdown has done positively for your family? As you, with your brothers or with your parents or with your grandparents, what positive stuff has come out of it? I don't know if anybody's got any views on that.
I think we're probably closer after it.
Yeah.
Because, we've spent so long together. If you told us 12 months ago to spend 12 months in the house with a family, I would have, that's just not going to work.
No.
Without us getting out to go, without us getting out to go coaching on a weekend and all that sort of stuff. And, but no, probably closer. But especially with parents, my parents actually know how to use FaceTime on an iPad now. It's quite scary.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen them face to face for March last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange. What about you, Claire, with your newborn? How's that gone, Claire?
Yeah, that's my real positive. She was 9 months old when we got locked down. Obviously, before that, I was 6 months off work. Yeah. So I literally feel as though I haven't left the house since I had her. She's been forced with me, bless her, for the whole entire time. But no, in seriousness, I've not missed the milestones that I would have got if I was out back at work. So the crawling, the walking, I would say talking, but it's gurgling at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she's 21 months old now.
Yeah.
So I would never get that back. Never get that back. But we really missed the grandparent interaction at the start when they really locked us down, and that was a real heartache. And now, because you have the support bubbles, I think that's been my benefit, to be honest, because that's I've needed it because my work's full time. I carried on. There was no furlough. There was no nothing. It was we're expecting you to carry on and do it. But I was at home trying to work, not working from home. I think that's the way I saw it. And privy to my employees, they were mindful of that and positive in regards to that. So the perfectionist of it all is I say be mindful of my toddler in the background. It's normal. It's normal to have a kid. It's normal to have a cat coming across a screen. It's pretty normal to have some random things that happen on the day to day. It's we accept, because we as coaches, we're perfectionists, aren't we? Because we want that straight line of cones and we want the numbers right and plan. But because we're just, like I said, at home trying to work, we're mindful of actually we're not going to get that out, because, like I said before, we never got taught how to do this. We never, we're still learning day to day. So, if something happens, it happens. So Peppa Pig comes on in the background and squealing, and she comes on. It actually just enlightens it more. It actually makes it more humorous, and she definitely she steals the show more than anything on a workshop, which she'll do 9 times out of 10.
And I'm sure everybody else just had positives. I think one of the big things for me is me and my dad wasn't very close, and obviously he's over the years he's hit bounced off each other really. But obviously he's got Alzheimer's and dementia now, and he's needed somebody to look after him, and we've been really close in that respect now. So it's been a positive in terms of me and him being really building our relationship in a strange way, to be fair, which I wouldn't have thought about 10, 20 years ago. I wouldn't have thought me and my dad would have been that close, but it's been a positive in that respect. So, yeah. Anybody else want to share anything on that before we move on? Because I think that was a really good start of the reflection bit, really. No, happy with that? Yeah, can I have the next slide, Jack? So I always try and use this if I can. I'm a big fan of that Simon Sinek. So this golden circle is thinking about the why. So this really was about maybe my journey on how I probably utilised the time while we were locked down in a coaching aspect, which is probably my job aspect as well. So the first thing I thought about was, why did I choose what I did and what was the purpose? So, you know, we're probably all in here and we've chose to watch things or choose to do CPD, but why? What's been the purpose? Why did you choose that? So I don't know if anybody wants to maybe share some of their reflections around that, on what we did choose and what was the purpose behind it.
Dips, can I jump in?
Yeah, go on. Great.
I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I felt like I probably watched too much in the first lockdown. I think it was in the first couple of weeks, it was class, wasn't it? Because like everyone was like being really proactive and designing loads of webinars and coaches coffee clubs and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But then I think I got to a point in the first lockdown where I was watching probably 5 or 6 a week, and and I'm thinking back now, like, did I actually benefit from it? I was busy. It kept us busy, and it maybe distracted us from the day job. But did I really benefit from it as a coach?
Yeah.
And I think my thinking, and I say this quite a bit at the minute, is less is more. And I think I'm probably in that zone again now, where I think less is more. Like, I think and it's probably why you're asking the question around why did you choose and how did you choose it. But I think in the early days, I tried to watch them FA webinars like all the time, and in my head I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing, but I don't think I was.
Yeah, I would share that as well, because I'm probably there with podcasts. I find it really difficult to choose a podcast to listen to. There's that many out there, and there's that many what people are saying, oh, this is great and that's great. I find it really difficult with podcasts. It's probably something I've just came into. I've just found a niche for podcasts in terms of when I go out for a walk. And I know Joey had mentioned that in his reflection yesterday about he's found podcasts to be really beneficial for him in walks. So he's found that area of where podcasts lie, and I've probably done the same. I had a great listen to Chris Evans last night, right off the beaten track. It's not something he's not somebody I would probably listen to, but Chris Evans has got one out, and I was listening to that one, and it is different. It's nice to hear from other things, but I think you're right.
Personal thing, isn't it? Personal.
Without a doubt. It was. I mean, I don't know what everybody else thought about that. Did everybody do the same? Was everybody at the beginning just jumping on everything they could because I had downtime? I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I was on webinar overload, same as Jamie at the beginning. Like you say, 4, 5, 6 a week, and it was just like, I can't keep this going, because like, how much are you actually taking in if you're doing that much?
It's a great point, that.
And you might spend the next day thinking about the one you'd been on, but that night you got another one, and it's just like stuff's just backing up. And I mean, I took a step back from them. It's like Jamie says, the FA ones, some really, really good information, but I have to space them out. I think if I'd known we were going to be on 12 months, I would have maybe given myself a target of maybe watch them one every 3-4 weeks or whatever, so you can like think about it and how it can affect you moving forward as a coach even. From a personal point of view, I decided to take a step back from them and to learn some new skills instead. So I've been doing a lot of data analysis stuff.
I've noticed that. Is that just something you've got into then, Steve?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've been working as a software developer for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, it's a perfect combination of matching up my coaching stuff with my skill set. So now I'm probably getting to the point where I was with the webinars, where I'm overloading on it.
Yeah.
I'm doing so much of it. Thoroughly enjoying it.
You think that comes from just trying to? It's a point where you're just trying to find everything, aren't you? You're trying to find a niche, and I think that's what usually happens with them type of things, where you're probably new to it. You just want as much information. You don't know where to get the best information from, so you just take whatever's there, don't you? Then you just got to try and dissect it, I think.
I think that's the thing that me and you spoke about when it dips in terms of this presentation was around, like in 6 months' time when we've been back on the grass for 6 months, hopefully, and we've done some coaching, what will be different as a result of all the CPD or the webinars? Like, will we have changed? Because I think that's the whole purpose, isn't it? To go on these things, it's either to, I suppose, reinforce your beliefs and your philosophies, or it's to try and change them. So I think if we were to put a diary invite in and do this workshop, exactly the same workshop again in 6 months, like what would it look like? What would we have changed? Would we have changed? I think that's the key for me.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, my personal experience. Sorry, go on, Steve.
I said the other thing I've been doing is probably a lot of reading. I do buy a lot of books, and I've had a backlog of them. So now it's a chance to actually sit down and spend some time and just go through them. Yeah, but, that's been benefit.
That's probably one thing I'm disappointed in myself. To be fair, I usually read books when I'm on holiday around the pool, and I always take 2 books with us every time and read them. I always enjoy it. I always love. And I started off the first lockdown. I read 2 books, but as further the lockdown went on, and you know what I think it was as well. I was lucky enough to be in the back garden sometimes reading them books, so it was like a bit of a downtime type of stuff. I was on furlough and stuff like that. So yeah, I think sometimes I've disappointed myself not reading many books this time. There's probably books I would have wanted to do, but I haven't.
I didn't have the benefit of being able to sit in the garden because working full time, especially all over the winter. But it was just something to occupy my time on a night. Yeah. Because I finished work. By the time I finished work, it was dark. Yeah. So you could go for a walk and potentially listen to a podcast or whatever. But other than that, come home and either work on the laptop or read.
Yeah.
Have a stick of watch the telly every night.
Is Marshall still on the call? Is Marshall still here? No, is he gone?
No, he's still there.
Is he? Yeah. How have you found it, Marshall? What did you concentrate on? Because I know you're big on data, but did you just concentrate on that, or did you not do it at all, or what's been your?
To be fair, I've been I did a bit of everything. So still looking at the coaching stuff, then looking at the analysis side. But obviously, I think one of the big things was it's a lot of the content was coaching heavy.
Yeah,
it's a lot around that. So maybe the analysis sort of niche isn't maybe as well sort of covered in terms of CPD.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the benefit I got from the analysis point of view during the lockdowns was just sort of networking with people.
Yeah.
Talking with different people within the industry.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think I was guilty trying to do everything as well, just getting on as much as possible, and then probably not taking the maximum benefit.
Yeah,
I think this has been good. The coffee clubs. I think one of the things that we've always sort of said over the last 3 or 4 years, especially since probably the last restructure we had, was that the old football development team just isn't there anymore. So we don't probably share knowledge and discuss coaching anymore. So I think that this has filled that void for me.
Yeah.
But again, it's when everyone's back there 100 mile an hour and coaching however many hours a week and evenings, weekends. It's how do we keep this on the agenda? Because it's I think for me, it's that as much as it's great to have external people on the call. Of course, it is. I think it's as much about the internal and how we develop our culture across all staff, whether full-time or part-time or casual.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it's. I mean, I know Steve used to come to them as Stevie Cox as well, to the coaches clinics, what we did years ago, and I think that's probably something we need to probably get back to. But this might be the new coaches clinic. It might be a time where we do some of this, but we also. I still don't think you can't beat being on the grass and interacting with people. When it's safe to do it again. I still think we need that, but I think this is probably another string to the bow in terms of you don't always have to be at the beacon. We can. Sometimes it's going to be flexible like this. So yeah,
it's almost a hybrid of the two, Dips, because
definitely
coaches clinics were like presentations and then somebody giving a practical example on the grass, etc. Whereas these are not so much a presentation, but just open up the floor for conversation.
Yeah.
And having this format's great compared to a webinar with somebody just talking at you.
Yeah.
Where it might be an idea to have the equivalent of this, but face to face.
Yeah.
Just sat around a table.
Yeah.
And just open up for discussion. So no particular person stand up and doing a presentation and then on the grass, but just a hybrid of the two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Did Claire put a question in there?
I think so.
Claire, did you want to share a question?
Spell check.
Spelling was horrendous there, so sorry. I'll be honest, for me, I felt, and just relating back to your webinar information about when I felt it was like a knowledge overload. And just from, I think we initially thought we had to provide so many resources out there and so many things to do. And I think now is when we reflected back onto it, and I'm saying we and I'm talking about Women's and Girls Game Collective, it was more important to not only put the information there, but have the application and where it would fit.
Yeah.
I think because there wasn't any practically what was going out there, or we don't have like a date which we have now, it's like it was hard to kind of go. So if we did something around practice design, for example, coaches were getting frustrated because they were doing all some great practices and designing some great practices, but then couldn't go out and deliver it.
Yeah, good on.
Times, coaches were getting, so when we were talking about the game, some just didn't even want to know. They didn't even want to know about it because they were just getting frustrated because if we were watching games, or it just made them more frustrated that they couldn't do the stuff that they wanted to do and what they love to do.
Yeah.
So at times it was like, where could we pitch it? Now, on a plus side, there's never been so much resources there that is now in a bank of data about the women's and girls game specifically. So like Marshall's saying about data is something that is a resource that could be looked at. So like player insight and game insight. And if you want to, guys, just a very quick side note, I've got a data workshop that I'm doing in a side note with, because I've got actually a data analyst who's going to provide a workshop because she did the Barcelona artificial intelligence program for Messi. So she's going to show how we can actually do it in a real coding basic format, for all coaches, because for me that's an upskilling. I think the coaches, not necessarily we have to be able to do it, but actually having an understanding of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Go through a pathway. Not for ourselves, but also for players, because players will have to have an understanding of what data and what that means to the game, because I think data is good, but it's actually how does it apply to the game, because too much data is too much. Going back again. I know that's a side note, but so my privy point was actually twofold. There was lots of knowledge overload, but I felt I didn't have enough time to reflect because of my situation, because I was full-time throughout the whole thing. I never got any downtime. I had the toddler running around. I didn't have the car drive because my car's sat on the drive now, literally not as many miles as it should have done. No. And the drive to and from work, or the commute, didn't allow me to kind of... So the meeting was literally, I'm on a screen, next meeting, 10 minutes later, bang. So you kind of didn't have that natural kind of rhythm of reflecting from each one as you went on as well. Does that make sense? So where it fits and sits, like as we move along, does it become formal or does it become informal, or do we have both? And it becomes like a hybrid. So what Jamie was on about in terms of your coach and coach development, where does it come into it, and how is that driven? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that goes back to Pubby's talking about having the time to do what we've been able to do. I think we're going to touch on that later on one of the slides. Are you happy with what we've been talking about there? Can we move on to the next slide, Jack? I'm just wary of time as well. So, my next move was, where do we find all this information? It's a bit like what Jamie said. There was a lot of stuff going out there at the time, and it's probably, for me, this is where maybe I found the information. It was probably around YouTube stuff. I did a lot of YouTube stuff. I give it an opportunity to go and hunt for stuff. Recently, it's been podcasts. I've had a few listens to them. I probably looked into Netflix and Amazon, and I've watched a few of them things around the Tottenham series and the Man City series and stuff like that. So that was something I watched and maybe learned from. And then obviously the books. I mean, Steve's mentioned about reading books and learning things from that. But I wanted to talk about as well the thing in the bottom corner there, the one-to-one coaching, because that seemed to have sprouted up through lockdown in one way or another. And it was just to find out what people's reflections are on that, by either how they've probably delivered that and what benefits they've got from that and what the players have got from that. And maybe it's just to see what other people have done, and has it been beneficial as a one-on-one coaching tool. You know, we've had some coaches who probably is not on this call, but they probably have done some one-on-one coaching. So it's just to find out what people thought about that, from either an observational point of view of one-to-ones or actually delivering one-to-ones. I don't know if anybody would like to share their thoughts on it.
I mean, I'm happy to chip in if you want. I mean,
yeah, go on.
What one-to-ones wise, probably this time last year, I wouldn't have probably endorsed them. I don't think. Yeah. I think I had a perception of them that it was just a pure money maker. But I think having been forced into a situation where probably first and foremost we had to probably make some money back in sort of June and July last year. That was maybe a driver. Yeah. And I think having delivered on them and seeing the benefits of them when the players return to train, and I absolutely think there's a place for them. I do think it's quite specialist, and I've seen really good one-to-ones, and I've also seen just some average ones, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But I think that there is absolutely a place for them, and I think it's something that I would be keen to incorporate into a program moving forward, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else on there?
Yeah. So from my experience of running one-to-ones, I think from the players' perspective, the feedback that we received, it was a big confidence boost for the players, and obviously working with the different level, it was the same kind of benefit, same kind of feedback all across. Not depending on what the level the player was, and I think that was the biggest takeaway from it, at least from the player perspective. And as well, like when we were starting, I was also like I was wondering what it's going to look like when we were like had loads of sessions during the day, but I think that at the end of the time when there was another lockdown, I think I really missed them when there was less of that delivery. And at the start of it was physically demanding because it requires a little bit more energy maybe, and especially when it's back to back. But I think it gives you that special connection with the player as well, and you can focus attention on them completely. When maybe in a group setting, it's not as much. So yeah.
And on that as well, so being that 1-to-1, is there more pressure on you as a 1-to-1 coach in terms of, or do you find it a little bit more less pressure in taking a 1-to-1? Do you know, instead of having a group?
I think there's definitely more pressure, because with the group sessions, you might have, you usually, if you have the players buzzing and if you're buzzing, the session kind of run itself a little bit.
Yeah.
And then with this one, you need to really have a strong plan, and then also you need to be like involved throughout, because if your intensity drops, it affects the player massively. So I think there is a little bit more pressure on you in that setup.
I also think you've got to make it really beneficial for the player. You've always, like for me, you've got to link it back to the game as well, which I think brings pressure, because I think it's like anything, whether it's a group session or an individual session. I suppose you can put a session on, you know, with the best coaches are the best thieves, aren't they? The steal sessions and the watch sessions. But I think the pressure for me is around making sure you can then demonstrate to the player, explain to the player where that happens in the game and what it looks like in the game. I think that's the key.
Without a doubt, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, to be fair.
Which I think it might be slightly more difficult in the situation when you 1-to-1 with the player, and you have a 5-a-side pitch, and you kind of need to make references to what they're usually used to on a bigger pitch or with more players around.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't think you'll ever be able to mimic exactly what's on that pitch, because you're going to have moving defenders and stuff like that. But I was just thinking back to the first lockdown. I've seen a few videos of Jack Braid doing it at the Beacon, and he had mannequins, and he was working with one of the girls. I remember it was, I think, the RDC girls, but it was the point of, it wasn't just about beating the defender and shooting. It was about where it was on the pitch. Now, I don't know if he did that consciously or subconsciously, but I could see where that would happen. It was a little bit false, because you're not going to get a mannequin to move, but actually where he was doing it and how he was doing it and what he was expecting the player to do was game-like. So I think that's been something I've watched. I've seen some 1v1s where it probably hasn't been that. And I think you're right, Jamie, it goes back to the coach. It puts the coach right out there about their understanding of the game, isn't it? It's how they interpret what looks what on what where in the pitch. So I thought, but it's been really interesting, because there's been a lot of 1v1s just popping up all over, hasn't there? And it was just to get a general idea of where that fit. So reflecting on that, would you now see that as part of an offer? You know, is that something you would maybe look to incorporate in your sessions now? So I'm just thinking, sometimes when you've got like the PDCs, or you've got like the RTCs, or, you know, is there an opportunity, if you're just doing your grassroots team, is there an opportunity now where you can take a kid out and do some one-on-one with them, and then bring them back in? I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I reckon with the amount of details, like the technical details you can get into during those sessions, it's I think it will be very beneficial to have something like that for a player, from a player perspective. Having something like that like once a week, it's a great like addition to what they have, the normal regular sessions. And especially if it's a player that we could have some time or spend some time analyzing, or we have that feedback form that we do with the PDC players, and we can affect the individual like strengths and weaknesses and something that they want to work on. I think it would benefit them greatly. And I think, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a standard all across the like academies and so on, but I see from what I've seen like online that this is the way it's heading towards. That you have more and more of stuff like that being like a regular delivery for the players all across the different levels.
Yeah. I mean, reflecting wise, from a business point of view, I'm just thinking about, because obviously a lot of us are from the foundation. I'm just thinking, is that something you offer? Maybe is it holiday times? Is that something you can incorporate and offer your PDC and your RTC players that little bit more one-to-one focus stuff going forward? I don't know, because it looks like there is a place for it. From what I've seen from the lockdown, there is a place for it, and I think if you get the right person to do it, I think you're quite right. There's a benefit to it. There's definitely a benefit to the players. Yeah.
I think. Go on, Steve.
I was going to say, would you have time to fit it all in, though? I mean, I'm thinking from my point of view, I work full time.
Yeah.
I have my grassroots team for training one night a week, match on a weekend.
Yeah.
Where do I fit in? You know, if I started off from one-to-ones in my grassroots team, if 8 of them turned around and said, yes, please, that's, you know, potentially 8 sessions. There's just no way you could fit them in.
Do you work by yourself, Steve, for your team?
From under 8s all the way through to 15s, I have. Sorry?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, have you got somebody who assists you? Do you have like a...
For the last 8 years, I haven't. I have now. I've finally got one.
Have you?
Yeah.
Is it something you could utilise and going forwards with your team? Is it something you would want to? I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it won't be this season because the schedule they've given us for the rest of this season is horrendous to get everything finished.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably looking at next season before we could even start it.
Yeah.
But then you're looking at, you're back into winter training and you're on a third of a 3G pitch.
Yeah.
With 16 players, how do you take one player or 2 players out to do a separate session? You're restricted by space.
Yeah. And then can you work a little bit smarter in that space? I mean, there'll be times when you can't if it's really small.
Yeah.
But there might be times where you can.
Yeah, it's something to think about. Yeah, the logistics. But now I have actually got somebody to coach with me. That's the potential.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That. Anything else on that?
I think one of the things I've been thinking about is we're quite guilty of like if we're putting a plan in place, it has to be a long-term plan.
Yeah.
So like if we're going to do one-to-ones, normally what we would do, we would say, right, that's it for the season or that's it for the term. Whereas I think if you're going to implement one-to-ones, is it not a bit more ad hoc? Is it not a bit more around when the players need it or when you can see them, you know, either struggling, so they need a bit of support, or they're striving and they need an extra push. I suppose it depending on what program you're working on, I think there's an opportunity for it to be a permanent fixture, but then also maybe a less permanent fixture in terms of how you implement it. It just means I think you've just got to go back to your organisation, haven't you, and making sure that you sort of got an idea of what you want long term. But I think that's where my thinking is at the minute. I think there's certain programs you could definitely implement it for the long term, but I think there's others where it could be a short term bit of work that on a needs must basis.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good. Anybody else on that? Is everybody happy with that? You move on to the next one, Jack. So this again, I was thinking about myself again, being a selfish person I am, but I was just thinking about how that works with other people. So, you know, what have you found out? I found quite a lot out about myself, to be fair. I've probably found out that I wasn't in a good place before lockdown. I think I'm in a better place now, but my fear is that once we get back to being full-time again, that I fall back into that zone, and I don't really want to. So I've probably found out that I was not in a great place, but that time away has probably helped us quite a lot. I don't know what other people think about that. It's probably changed my way of thinking, how I do stuff as well. Not just in my coaching life, but just in life in general. It's given us And another aspect on life, to be fair, how I look at life now. And the other big thing for me, I put this in about circles. I used to have a circle of workmates and friends, and I think over that lockdown period, that's probably changed. Not drastically, but people probably from who I thought was on the outside of my circle have probably come on the inside of my circle, and some people on the inside of my circle have gone on the outside. So it was quite interesting from that point of view, where I've done some deep reflection and thinking, well, actually I've found some new friends or some friends who I didn't think were my friends, and they're in my circle, and vice versa. So I don't know. That's probably a bit deep for me, but I mean, them questions there. How have you found that yourself? From them questions, have you found something new about yourself, what you didn't know about? You know, and how's that? You know, has things made you think differently about stuff? I don't know. I don't know if you want to share your thoughts around that, your reflections.
Go on then. Yeah, I think probably in the last year, my circle's probably changed quite a lot. I think I was probably a year ago like your typical young man who fortunate to do a job that I love and that is my passion. But then like on a weekend, I was your typical young man, like was right, go to football on a Saturday, go to the pub on the Saturday night, and that was my circle. Like that's how it was. And like thinking back, like loved it. But now after not having that go-to, if you like, that fallback for the last year, probably reflected quite a lot and understood actually like who am I close to because we drink together, and who am I close to because we actually connect really well with each other. So I suppose, like my circle's probably changed quite a bit, and my priorities have changed in the last year.
Yeah,
I think I'm probably the same as you. Like when life goes back to whatever the normal is going to be, I probably don't want to fall back into that rut. Like I want to keep going with where I probably find myself now in terms of like who I speak to, who I connect with, because I connect with people away from work, but through my passion of coaching as well. So can I keep going with that, and that'll hopefully obviously help me keep developing as a coach and as a person as well. So probably similar to you there, Dips.
Yeah, and there's no harm in what you've been doing in the past. You know, it's probably maybe just being aware of it, isn't it? There's no wrong with what you've done where you've gone out with your mate, because that's where you are in your life. You know, we've all been there. Everybody on this call, well, most of the older ones, some more than others, would have been in that and there's me pal there. There's me partner in crime there, Mr. Calhoun. So we've all been there. We mightn't look that way now, but we were when we were younger. But it's just realising, isn't it? I think that's what it's gives you. It's give you an opportunity to realise where you are and what you've been doing. But anybody else want to share anything around that? Has anything changed because of that? I know you probably haven't seen a lot of your friends and stuff like that, but has this changed your thoughts and ideas about other people?
I think from my point of view, I think I don't think my circle's necessarily changed, but I think I've seen a different side of people over the last year.
Yeah,
I think given the position I've got, if you like, as my day job, I think I think back to March last year, I had to make them awful phone calls because no one knew what furlough was. And, you're ringing people up and you're trying to explain to them that you were trying to do the right thing. And, most of the people reacted really, really well. Some people didn't react very well. And, and at first I was a bit annoyed by that. But then I think, well, what would it have been like if I was in their shoes? Then I had my stint on furlough, full furlough. And, what I did was I tried to speak to someone different from outside the business every day for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've met some wonderful people over the last sort of 12 months, and only about 4 or 5 of them I've kept in touch with afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think they've helped me see me differently, I think. And I think, obviously, most of you know I've had a difficult year for a variety of reasons, but like, I think I'm coming out of the other side of it stronger for it now. But I think that's down to me talking to people about it and not being scared to talk about it. I think there's a lot of leaders out there of organisations that wouldn't probably talk about the stuff I've talked about. But I think I've found it really useful to try and get to the end point that I wanted to be at. And I think talk about circles, I think my relationships with the people in my circles are probably stronger now because of that. But obviously, I think I think I've met some great people as a result of being a bit braver as well. And I think one of the things that when I took over from Phil, I got told straight away I wasn't very good at networking outside of the foundation. So I think I've tried to really act on that this year, and I think lockdown's probably forced us to do that.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody there? Anybody else? What have you found out about yourself? Apart from being a good drinker?
just a little bit of reflection on some people's, because everyone started off on that conversation saying if someone told me this 12 months ago, I wouldn't have done it. So I think something that we need to maybe reflect on is our future learning, because if we thought we couldn't do it, but we've done it and we've done a real good job at it as well, actually, have we inhibited? I can't even say the word inhibit. I can't say it, and I can't speak, and I can't spell. Have we inhibited our learning because we kind of thought we would never do it? So I think moving forward, sometimes it's kind of given us an openness to go, well, do you know what? I'm maybe going to give it a go. And, you know, what is it in regards to it? So I think it's I think so what I'm saying is a bit of a pat on the back to everyone to kind of go, like, you know, to say I was going to remote learn and teach and do workshops and meet people and build relationships. The best that I could do is probably insightful with it all, to go and do delivery on one-to-ones, to help coaches reflect, to remotely support coaches when they're allowed to go and coach. And it started in June and I wasn't even allowed to get out till September, you know, so how do we help coaches when we can't even be there standing next to them, but still trying to make them feel as though support the best that we could, dealing with everything else that we were dealing with as well. So I think there's a real context of everything in terms of actually, we've got to really praise what we've done, and I think that's got to be really kind of be celebrated. I think there's a massive celebration that needs to happen, which I think there will be when things open up. But just think on the other side to it, like to say we would have got through a whole global pandemic and we're still going through it. The things that we've been doing, the way that we've done it, and the appreciation that will come out of it going through the door will be something else. We'll be absolutely mindful with it all.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you with that. I mean, I know he's on here, Jack. Just what Jack's done, you know, and I'm not just saying about this coffee club, but for somebody his age to do what he's been doing, like I've spoken to Jamie about this through the week. I've been really impressed in how he's developed over the lockdown, just in terms of how he's gone about looking after the PDC kids. You know, he's made something to them. He's done the 1v1s. He's looked at the RDC, and he's done a lot of stuff online. You know, and I'm signaling him out at this moment in time. But there's a lot of other people in the RDC who have stepped up to the plate on a weekend, on a Saturdays, and whenever, and they've done stuff with the RDC players. And that's, you know, what we've got to make sure is that that's not just forgotten about. You know, I've seen some really good stuff on social media about it. And you know, it surprised me some of the people who stepped up to the plate for that as well, who's really come to the forefront of it. So there's been some really good positives regarding that. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Anything else? Everybody happy with that?
I think just like in terms of reflecting as a coach as well, like I've always been quite ambitious, I would like to think. And I've always probably tried to look at like, well, what do I want to like, what do I want to get out of the game? Like, where do I want to be in 10, 15 years time? And I think this lockdown has probably made us realize, well, actually, I'm not really too fussed where I end up in terms of like as a coach or on the ladder, because I think not being able to see the players and then having to find new ways to connect with players. Like the thing I've realized that I just absolutely love is just working with people, like young people. So like if you'd asked us a year ago, like, right, what do you want to be doing next year? I'd probably think like, like I would go straight to like where I want to be in the business. So right, I want to be at PDC, but I want to run this and I want to do that. And I was thinking like probably selfishly, which I think which is normal to do as a young person. You want to progress, but now it's like in a year's time, where do I want to be? Well, I want to know that all the kids in the PDC are still playing football. I want to know that all of the 10s at the RTC are still developing and still learning and are hopefully still with us. Like, probably became less about me, which is, I suppose, is a good thing. That's probably the big thing I've learned about myself as a coach, I would say.
I think what you'll find in the long run, I mean, people like probably Jamie will be the same. You'll find that because of the way you are and what you've done, you'll get the rewards anyway at the end of it, chap. You know, where you want to be in 10 years' time, you probably could end up being quite high up the ladder just because of the way you've gone about it. So even though you say you just want to make sure that people have had fun and, you know, they've progressed and stuff, because of that good work you do, other people will see that. And I think that's really key to it. But that's what I've seen over the last year or so with you. And I think if you keep on that road, I think you've got a great future. It'll come to you. People will see it and people going, yeah, boom. So I just keep on that road. That's what I would say. Next slide. This was quite interesting because it's probably something I haven't really done, and I'm a bit disappointed with myself. But again, it's just where I think I've been personally. I've probably stayed in my comfort zone, and there hasn't been many opportunity zones. I have tried other things. I have looked at other things, and maybe I haven't tested myself as much. But I think, as from a personal point of view, I don't think I was in the right place to do that. 20, 30 years ago, I would have probably been in that opportunity zone a lot more than the comfort zone. But it was just to have a look around that. You know, what opportunities have come out? Where have you been? Have you been in your comfort zone, or, you know, have you been in? How many opportunities have you had, and what have you done in your opportunity zone? And what does your comfort zone look like now? Does it look different to a year ago? I don't know if anybody wants to share the ideas around that. What opportunities and maybe they've took, and how that comfort zone looks now.
Good question, that.
It's a great question, isn't it? It's just like, you know, I think about some of our staff. They've took the opportunity to go online, do one-on-ones, do skill sessions, do tactical sessions. I think some of them have come out the comfort zone in that, because doing a tactical session with players isn't an easy thing to do. You know, it's putting you right out there, and it's putting what your knowledge and what your experience and what your ideas are as a coach out there. And that's not an easy thing to do, you know. So, you know, it's coming right out of your comfort zone. And it's what effect that's had on you. Go on, Jimmy.
I mean, I think what's definitely helped me with the RTC is how I would say probably 80% of the staff live in the opportunity zone. So I think, if you know, that question there around what effect does that have on you and those around you, you know, I think seeing the way that the staff have gone about the online program and the way that you know, even just like the player reviews that we did and the change that, and I think that inspires you, doesn't it? And I think that then gives me the bit of a buzz. Now, I've delivered in this lockdown. I think I've delivered once. In the first lockdown when we were doing it, I delivered most of the time to the older ones. So I think there was a bit of nervousness from the coaches around. I'm not sure about this, but then I think when you talk about living in they've embraced it, and it's now. I mean, now we can't even get a go because the players want to do the sessions, but I think that's because the players are being inspired by what they've seen, and they see their mates putting on a session. Think, I fancy a bit of that, or Natalie Henderson came on and did a talk with the older ones a few weeks back, and she encouraged them to get into coaching. And I know Claire's put tweets on about getting the following that up and trying to get the girls into coaching as a result. And you know, I think being inspired by those around you, and I think trying to have that culture where it's about bigging people up, not bringing them down.
Yeah.
You know, and if someone does something like, I love nothing more than like seeing the girls praise each other on whether it's social media or whether it's on that Hedger app. You know, I've just went on this morning and young Alice Ritson, under 12s, saying, have a great first day back at school to the under 10s. Like, it's like for me, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that's had a knock-on effect with the groups of players that we're working with, definitely.
Yeah. I've just been looking at this as well. There's a guy on this call, which when I was looking at comfort zones and opportunity zones, he came to mind, and that was Ryan when he did his workshop the other week on the psychology stuff. And I thought he's took a great opportunity there, and he's probably come out of his comfort zone, you know, and he's delivered something there what he probably mightn't have done before. I might be wrong with this, Ryan. He can come on the line and tell us, but for me, that was a great example of he's had an opportunity. He's been brave enough to take it on board. He's delivered it, but where does his comfort zone look now? And that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, you know, how many times has that happened in the last year or so, people? You've took the opportunity. It's either gone great or it hasn't gone so great, but what's that done to your comfort zone? And I think people will be in a better place going forwards, without a doubt.
I think there's a few examples of that, Dips. I mean, Jack probably won't mind me saying, but he did the one with Northumberland FA, which I'm sure that put him out of his comfort zone, you know.
Without a doubt.
So that was, what, 100 people on the call, something like that?
Yeah, I hated every second of it, Steve.
Yeah. But again, like Dips said, where do you sit now, though? You know, once you've done it, it's not as bad, you know. I mean, I even sat in on one of the sessions that Joey and Jake and them did with the teams around the world.
Yeah.
You know, coaching kids that they've never, ever met before and probably likely never to meet.
No.
But they all had great fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, and it put them out of their comfort zone. So,
yeah.
Lots of examples of it.
Yeah, great. And like I say, you know, people look at this as being like maybe some type of negative, but for me, I see a lot of positives come out of it. And I've probably seen it. Is this a new way forward? Is it a new way forward for us? Is there a change now on how we maybe deliver and how we connect with people? I mean, I just look at the business in general. When would have our like Jamie and Leslie be able to get everybody together? It's probably not been something we've ever thought of, but now we're having Zoom calls. We're having Zoom calls as a business where we couldn't get everybody together, have a chat, but now there's possibilities that we can do that. And that's probably going to be a massive benefit for the business going forward, I would think, Jamie.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, you know, the amount of times we've not had meetings because we've been, you know, staff have been based at outreach sites, or you've not been able to get everyone in the same room. And, you know, I know one of the things that consistently comes out of the staff survey, much to my annoyance, is communication.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any excuses now. Like, I think, you know, that we've probably been fast-tracked into using this type of technology. And I think, I don't think there's any excuses anymore. I think that, you know, there's everyone needs to be in the loop. And I think as long as people continue to buy into it, then I think it absolutely helps things going forward, definitely.
It's about that opportunity thing again as well, isn't it? You put a Zoom call on, and people have got that opportunity now to connect. You know, there'll always be that thing, well, I was working at that time or whatever, but that option is another option now for people. It's not that can I get that meeting at the Beacon? It's like, well, actually, and then you can record them as well, so it's something where you can just catch up later on in your own time. Which I think
that's really definitely where my thinking is, Dips, around. I think what we've tried to do over lockdown is give people opportunities. So, you know, whether it's getting access to this coaches coffee club, whether it's the buddy system we put in place, whether it's you know, the staff fitness classes twice a week, the opportunity, like the Leslie staff call, like the opportunities are there. You you can't force people to do stuff. But I suppose what you hope happens is that they recognise that in the staff servants who actually, I might not have bought into it, but the opportunity was there rather than just, saying communication's poor or whatever. But
cool. Great. Next slide, Jack, because I know I'm a little bit wary of time. So I think we've probably touched on this. So after all this thing, we're coming to the end of it now, and we're going to be thinking a little bit differently, I would imagine, going forwards. So why are you going to change what you do? So after this experience you've had over the year, why are you going to change what you do? What will it be the benefits, and who will benefit from it? I think that's a big one. So it's the benefit of what you're going to get out of it, and probably what other people are going to get out of it. Who's going to benefit the most? And how will you implement these changes? How will this affect your delivery and what the students receive? I don't know if you want to share some of that stuff with you, with other people. Maybe, what does your future look like as a coach now? From 12 months ago, how's it going to look now? And what will you implement to make the change? Are you going to just revert back to type? Or is the stuff what you've took on board now, what you might actually change, how you maybe deliver stuff? Is everything going to be face-to-face now? Is everything going to be on the grass? Or have we found a new way of maybe saying, well, actually, do we need to be in 3 times a week? Do I really need to do a session with them on the Thursday? Or can I do it in a different way? I don't know. It just got me thinking about how we might do things differently with the kids. Does everything have to be practical and want them face-to-face now?
I think the video analysis stuff that Marshall's done, and Kev, to be fair, the tactical stuff that we did is something that I want to keep as part of an offer for the RDC players, definitely. So whether that means we go into the classroom for 10, 15 before the getting on the grass or whatever. Yeah. I've thought a lot about the players who travel. So you've got like Leanna and Chelsea travel from Whitehaven 3 times a week. Like, could we not do something online with them so that not necessarily for them, but for their parents? How do we support their parents so they're not having to drive over 3 nights a week? Especially around the exam times and stuff like that. Is there an opportunity to start an offer there? Because maybe with the obvious thing would be to say, all right, we'll train. Like we had it just before Christmas, where the few of the players decided not to come train that week, rightly so, because they had mock exams. But then actually we could have put an online offer on for them. They could have done half an hour. It might have been good for their mental health, if you like, even just to do half an hour fitness session or whatever on Zoom. Yeah, so I think there's definitely stuff that we need to keep 100%.
I'm just thinking grassroots football. I'm thinking maybe Stevie Dix. I think, is there an opportunity there where can you do something with your lads? Would they be open to something like that, where you're doing something around tactics? I'm just thinking about your skill set as well, Steve, in terms of you work a lot with technology. Is it something where you could maybe do a Zoom call with them lads and talk tactically about stuff? I don't know.
Potentially. I don't know where my individual group are going, because they're coming at the end of under 16s and some of them are leaving school, etc. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for them when I get back. But yeah, certainly. Just while we're talking about there, it was a case of just thoughts going through my head. Can we have our normal training on a Thursday, but maybe it's on a Monday or a Tuesday following a Saturday's game? Could we have a half-hour Zoom call just to talk through the previous game? Yeah. Just talk through it, get their idea. Because at the minute, that's maybe taking up the first 5-10 minutes of the Thursday night's training session.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a great idea. It
might be a Monday or a Tuesday. Those that want to jump on the call for half an hour will go through the game, what went well, what didn't go well, etc. And then when we meet on the Thursday, we know, where we stand.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's just something that's going through my head as you're talking. So
great.
I don't know what the tie-in will be like, but
nice, just how it looks. I'm just thinking about Steve Cullen as well, like goalkeeping. Does it have to be, if you're doing goalkeeping, does it have to be on the grass all the time? or can you actually spend half an hour and show them stuff online? Is there stuff where you can say, well, we'll spend half an hour, look what he does here, and this is what we've been working on in training? I don't know. It's just something.
That's actually, Dips, one of the massive things for me over particularly this last lockdown, is watching a lot of online stuff, is how other coaches work, and each of those little bits of technology that they use. Yeah, you know, whether it's GoPros or, you know, Ben Foster with his little GoPro on the goal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And bringing all those little bits in.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've done, I mean, I filled one of the lesson planners with sessions which are a step further than what I've been doing in the past.
Right, cool.
Including that technology.
Yeah.
And from a self-confessed technological dinosaur like me,
yeah,
it's a massive change for me. It really is.
No,
and I've had a couple of conversations. I've had a couple of conversations with Marshall as well about utilising some sessions. You know, video on me delivering sessions, video on an individual goalkeeper, on you know, throwing a ball, catching a ball, kicking a ball, recovery saves and stuff like that. So that's a big thing for me when I eventually get back on the grass. Is one of the things that I'll be taking forward from that.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about your situation, Steve. They could actually do the GoPro and send it across to you, couldn't they?
Yeah.
They could send it to your home now and say, Steve, this is me training. What do you think?
Yeah.
You know,
well, I've got one from, obviously I've been sending stuff out to the goalkeepers every single week, whether it's RTC, scholarship, whatever. And they've been actually filming themselves.
Yeah.
Doing these little sessions and then sending them back for a little critique.
Yeah,
you know?
Good.
Are my feet right? Is my set position right? So, you know, it's sort of, for me, it's been a massive difference. And I think it's benefited me as a coach.
Yeah.
Because I've got to think about practice design, because you know, it's one of those things where I think, how can you continually improve and not stand still?
Yeah. Great. Next slide, Jack. I think we're near the end now. Yeah. And this is something I was hoping that you would maybe write down, maybe in an email, and just send them back. So, what are the key light bulb moments you've had from lockdown? What are you going to take away from the coffee club today? And what key points have you taken away from others sharing their lockdown experiences today? So that would be something, if you can maybe go away. You don't have to do it straight away. You might take a couple of days, might take a week, whatever it's going to be, and you maybe just send an email in. So write down the light bulb moments you've had from your lockdown, what you've took away from the coffee clubs today and in the past, and what key points have you taken away from people sharing the lockdown experiences. So something, maybe, you know, a little bit of homework there for you if you can, and maybe, you know, send them to Jack, and we can maybe put them all together and put them in a place and maybe share them later on for another workshop. And the last one, I think the last form is just about where we're going to be taking the coffee club next. So I thought this was quite apt. This probe, what's just gone on to Mars. I think that's the journey we've had. What happens? We've been in lockdown. We've flown. We've landed. We've landed now near at the end of lockdown. And where does the coffee club fit in the future? So what happens now with us? We've landed. We've got where we want to be. What's going to be the future? What's going to look like? What do we need to look out for? What can we add? What will we find? You know, what do you want to happen with the coffee club? I think it's really important that you send all your ideas and your thoughts back to Jack. I think if that's okay with Jack, to take all the collate the information, because he's the one who probably started all this off. So it's basically, where does it fit? Does coffee club fit on a weekend? Does it fit on a Sunday night? Does it fit, you know, does it fit one day through the week? Does it fit on a morning? Where does it fit now? Because I can see people going back to work and getting back to some type of normal. and it'd be a shame to maybe lose what we've developed as a group of people. So for me, it's just where does that fit now? I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Jamie.
And like I said earlier, I think for me it's got to stay because I think I think about some of the discussions I've been part of. It's really challenged everyone's thinking, which is the whole point of it, isn't it? And you might not always agree, like about tactical fouls and stuff. But it's good to have the discussion and have the crack in it. And I think for me that's more beneficial sometimes than going on. When I think about the best courses I've been on, the best, like, it's always the people you're on with, isn't it? And the conversations around the actual learning that make the experience. So I think we've got so much knowledge in our network that it seems silly that we don't utilise it enough. Appreciate that's difficult because, you know, when everyone gets back to, you know, working as they do, you could put it on a Monday night, but that'll exclude certain people. You put it on a Tuesday night, that excludes others.
Yeah.
The beauty of recording it helps. So does it become more of a podcast? But then you lose the interaction bit.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to try and find a way of keeping it. But it's maybe that thing of it doesn't have to be every Tuesday or every Monday at 4:00. You know, it could be once a month, and everyone commits to say actually once a month on a whatever night or morning or whatever during the week or the weekend. That's when we're going to do it. And you might miss the odd one, but on the whole, you're going to be there to be part of it. I think it would be such a shame after a year of this to then just not do it again, you know?
Yeah. And I think that the key as well is probably what you use one format. That's the key. I think we've had a lot of people who stepped up to the plate and they've said, "Oh, I want to talk about this." But what do you want from a personal point of view as well? What things have we not touched on, which we can touch on in the future? You know, and that then gives people something to maybe aim for as well. So, I think it's been a great benefit. It's been a great benefit to the guys who've took it on board and joined in. And hopefully, you know, going forward, it'll be something we can build on. Jack, I don't know if you want to say anything.
No, I suppose just from me, really. I suppose the coffee club was only started off because I wanted someone to talk to about coaching and football when we're in the first lockdown, and the fact that people are still coming on a year later and having a bit of crack about whatever the topic is brilliant. So for everyone that keeps coming on, sort of thank you. I think we'll definitely look at how we can continue it going forward. Like I said, whether it is once a month or does it become part of the coach program that we were obviously starting to step back up again before.
Yeah.
I suppose there's opportunities for it, and hopefully people keep buying in. I suppose the last thing is just obviously thanks to you and Jamie for your time and putting that together. It's always a worthwhile coffee club when you write down about 10 questions instead of answers. So that's given me a lot to reflect on personally. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been good. Thanks from my personal point of view. Thanks for coming on. I think it's a key thing, and it's something we don't really do, you know, as a group. I mean, maybe individually. What is reflection? What does it look like?
Buzzword.
It's a big question. It's a buzzword, and I still think there's so much we need to learn about it, especially from my point of view. I mean, what is it? You know, what is it? Is it what we've just done, or we're far away from it? I don't know. But I think it's been beneficial to find out other people's thoughts, and I think it's always good to share, isn't it? It's always good to share them ideas and how people feel. I think that's what it comes down to. But I've been great. Thanks very much for your time and your effort. If there's anything else you need, just give us a shout. You know, if there's anything we haven't discussed and there's questions you want to ask, I'm sure Jimmy will be the same. He'll answer any questions around the reflection stuff. If it's not what you thought it was, let us know. You know, what does reflection look like? Because I'm still looking for it. I'm still thinking about it. So, is it just a bunch of questions?
Is that not reflection?
Probably is. Probably is. But Well, if there's anything, you know, hopefully we'll keep it going. It's been great. It's been great. I really enjoyed it. So thanks for your time.